personality affects your behavior and human relations, so your personality is a good predictor of job performance. Your personality also affects your level of stress, and when you're under too much stress, it tends to have a negative effect on your behavior, human relations, and job performance. Your personality is also related to your level of intelligence and preferred method of learning, so intelligence also influences your behavior and human relations, is a good predictor of job success. Finally, your personality and intelligence influence your perception, which in turn affects first impressions of others. Since behavior is a product of perception, it also affects human relations and performance. Personality, or personal style, is a very complex subject, yet in our daily lives we use the trait adjectives such as warm, aggressive, easygoing to describe people's behavior. Personality is the word commonly used to describe an individual's collection, the total person, of such behavioral traits and characteristics. Personality style, or personality, is a relatively stable set of traits that aids in explaining and predicting individual behavior. As noted, individuals are all different, yet similar in many ways. Why are some people outgoing and others shy? Some loud and others quiet? Some warm and others cold? Some aggressive and others passive? This list of behaviors is made up of individual traits. Traits are distinguishing personal characteristics. Personality development is based on genetics and environmental factors. The genes you received before you were born influence your personality traits. Your family, friends, school, and work also influence your personality. In short, personality is the sum of genetics and lifetime learning. Personality traits, however, can be changed with work. For example, people who are shy can become more outgoing. Let's begin talking about personality classification by talking about the simple two-dimensional method of type A and B. A type A personality is characterized as fast-moving, hard-driving, time-conscious, competitive, impatient, and preoccupied with work. Because a type B personality is the opposite of type A, often it's called laid-back or easygoing. The type A personality is commonly associated with high levels of stress, so we will discuss it further when we talk more about stress. Locus of control is a continuum representing one's belief as to whether external or internal forces control one's destiny. People with an external locus of control, called externalizers, believe that they have little control over their performance and are closed to new experiences. Internalizers, however, believe that they are in control and are open to new experiences to improve performance. So, do you believe that you determine your own career success? Successful people know that they are in control of their lives, and they're happy and successful because they work at it. Successful people have lots of failures, but they keep trying. Internal locus of control can be changed. The Big Five model of personality characterizes traits in the dimensions of urgency, agreeableness, adjustment, conscientiousness, and openness to experience. Note, however, that the 5 dimensions are sometimes published with slightly different descriptor names. Our fourth and most complex personality classification method is the Meyers-Briggs Type Indicator, or MBTI. The MBTI model of personality identifies your personality preferences. It's based on your 4 preferences or inclinations for certain ways of thinking and behaving. Now let's turn to a discussion of stress. Stress is an emotional and/or physical reaction to environmental activities and events. Situations in which too much pressure exists are known as stressors. Stressors are situations in which people feel anxiety, tension, and pressure. Stressors are events and situations to which people must adjust, and the impact of the stressor and how people react depend on the circumstances on each person's physical and psychological characteristics. Stress is an individual matter. In any given situation, one person may be very comfortable while another feels stress. For example, June and Rod have the same job. While Rod is stressed, June is not. Now let's look at intelligence. There are numerous theories of intelligence, many of which view intelligence as the ability to learn or use the cognitive process. For our purposes, we will say that intelligence is the level of one's capacity for new learning, problem solving, and decision making. Today, it is generally agreed that intelligence is a product of both genetics and the environment. Most scientists today believe that there are 2 or perhaps as many as 7 or more different components or kinds of intelligence. People often perform at different levels for different tasks. As you know, you are good at doing some things, maybe math or tennis, and not as good at doing others, perhaps biology or writing. Therefore, people have multiple intelligences. Intelligence is a strong predictor of many important outcomes in life, such as educational and occupational alignment. An offshoot of IQ or intelligence is EQ, which is emotional quotient, or emotional intelligence, known as EI, which is clearly related to the adjustment Big Five personality dimension. EI is all about working well with people, and up to 90% of the difference between star performers and average performers is emotional intelligence. The good news is that EI is a learned competence, so you can improve your emotional intelligence by working at it. There are 5 components of EI. Number 1, self-awareness, being conscious of your emotions within you, your gut feelings. Number 2, managing emotions, not letting your emotions get in the way of getting the job done. Number 3, motivating yourself, being optimistic despite obstacles, setbacks, and failures. Number 4, empathy, putting yourself in someone else's situation and understanding that person's emotions. And finally, number 5, social skills, to build relationships, respond to emotions, and influence others. The term perception refers to a person's interpretation of reality. In the perception process, an individual will select, organize, and interpret stimuli through their own senses. Your perception is influenced by heredity, environment, and more specifically by your personality, intelligence, needs, self-concept, attitudes, and values. In human relations, perception is just as important as reality. People often encounter the same thing and perceive it differently. We tend to believe that our perception is reality and the other party's perception is not reality. Remember, people will behave according to their perception, not yours. Thus, it's important to realize that people often see things differently than you do, so we need to look at things from the other person's perspective. Some of the biases affecting perception are stereotypes, frame of reference, expectations, selective exposure, interest, and projection. Let's take a look. Consider the bias of stereotyping, which is the process of generalizing the behavior of all members of a group. Stereotypes are drawn among all kinds of lines, including race, religion, nationality, and sex. Most of us stereotype people as a way of quickly perceiving a person's behavior. Women in minority are often stereotyped as organizers. Women managers have been stereotyped as being ineffective leaders. Research has shown this stereotype is woefully incorrect, as there are no real differences in leadership styles. We have to avoid stereotypes. Consciously attempt to get to know people as individuals rather than stereotyping. Our frame of reference is our tendency to see things from a narrow focus that directly affects us. It is common for employees and management to perceive the same situation from different frames of reference. For example, if managers want to make a change to increase productivity, they perceive the change as positive, while employees may perceive the change as negative, ignoring management's perception. Parents and their children often have frame of reference perception differences. To be effective in our human relations, we should try to perceive things from the other person's frame of reference and be willing to work together to benefit all parties to create a win-win situation. What we expect often influences our perception of what we see and experience. We perceive, select, organize, and interpret information as we expect it to appear. Often people, especially those who know each other well, do not really listen to each other. They simply hear what they expect to hear. We have expectations of others in relationships. When they do things we don't expect or like, we have human relations problems. So, our preconceived notions and labels can undermine accurate perceptions and affect judgment and decision-making. To improve human relations, we must be careful to understand people's realities, rather than what we expect their reality to be. We tend to see and hear what we want to see and hear. People sometimes selectively pick information they want to hear and ignore information they don't want to hear. Sometimes when a manager delegates a task with a specific deadline, the employee selectively does not hear and therefore misses the deadline. To ensure effective human relations, we should listen to the entire message rather than use selective exposure. What interests you also affects how you perceive and approach things. Have you ever taken a course and not liked it, while other courses you thought were great? The difference in perception may be due to different levels of interest in the subject. Interest influences job satisfaction. Finally, projection. To avoid psychological threats, people use defense mechanisms known as projection. Projection means attributing one's attitudes or shortcomings to others. People who steal and cheat may make statements like, "Everyone steals from the company," or "All students cheat in college." Projection may be an effective defense mechanism, but it generally does not help human relations.